Coming up, concern over coronavirus now impacting the aviation world. What's open, what's closed, and hey, what about sun and fun?
Plus, women in aviation going strong at their annual conference.
And don't bully this beach. We fly the Wolverine. AOPA Live this week begins in just a moment.
I believe that trust is something that you earn over time. It's not something that you have right away. We've been repairing headsets for years now, and I personally have been repairing headsets for 11 years. When a customer sends in their headset, they trust that it will be repaired and it will be perfect.
This is AOPA Live This Week with Tom Haynes and Alyssa Cobb.
Well, coronavirus is starting to shut down a lot of aviation. Last Friday, organizers of the big general aviation show in Germany postponed the event scheduled for April 1st. The show features more than 700 exhibitors from nearly 40 countries. But many of those exhibitors and visitors started dropping out because of coronavirus concerns.
And one of our own events is being postponed, a ban on non-essential gatherings, and out of an abundance of caution for those in attendance, including a 100-year-old war hero, the Bob Hoover Awards have been postponed. The trophy being bestowed this year to visionary air and spacecraft designer Burt Rutan. Other great leaders of our industry also were to be honored. The trophy is named, of course, for the legendary aerobatic performer. The new date, October 6th in Orlando. We'll keep you updated.
The airlines are hurting too. Their trade group, Airlines for America, estimates the industry will lose between $63 and $113 billion this year just because people aren't going to get on airliners. The only bright spot? Bookings for charter flights are up. And some of those charter flights are to get infected and exposed American citizens home to the United States. AOPA.org has a profile of one of the companies being used to transport folks home. Phoenix Air and Kalita Air have flown more than 1,100 Americans out of Wuhan, China. Read about their operations and general aviation background right now on the website.
So what about sun and fun? Well, right now it's a go. Organizers told me this week they have no plans to cancel the event. Tents are already being built in Lakeland and the show is coming together. A number of companies have said they're pulling out of the event for the year, but that's not stopping the show. Unless large events are banned by a government entity in Florida, AOPA plans to be there. If you're well, hope to see you there. If you're in the at-risk category, well, consider staying home. But let's be clear, this is a real concern. The World Health Organization has declared the coronavirus a global pandemic. It most likely will spread to your community eventually, and that's the frustrating part for those of us who are in counties and places that haven't yet seen any cases of the virus. But it is coming. Public health goal is to slow the spread of it, and fortunately, there are easy steps to do that. First one, wash your hands, use soap and water, and wash for at least 20 seconds. If you're sick, stay home. If you're over 60, which doesn't seem that old anymore, or you have a compromised immune system, you're at a higher risk for the infection. There's no need to panic, though. Just stay calm. Take this seriously. Practice some good hygiene. We'll all get through this together, and we'll see you at the next aviation event. And go out and be careful, but commit some commerce and help the economy, all right?
Well, now coronavirus concerns didn't dampen the Women in Aviation International Conference last week in Orlando. Nearly 4,500 folks attended from some 31 countries. And WAI isn't just for women. About 30% of the attendees were male. One of the highlights was Girls in Aviation Day. Young women between the ages of 8 and 17 visited activity stations, heard about different aviation careers, and met role models. Military and college recruiters were also there. Women in Aviation International was founded in 1990 and now has some 16,000 members. Dr. Peggy Chabrian founded Women in Aviation International and has led the organization until her retirement this year. Allison McKay has now taken the yoke, and she wants women to know that there are many more opportunities in aviation beyond piloting an aircraft.
I think that the perception is that women in aviation was just for pilots. And I hope that me coming on board will show women in all career fields in aviation that this is an organization for them. I came up, I've never flown, I've never fixed, I've always supported, and I think that that is the cornerstone now for this organization.
McKay was previously an executive for the Helicopter Association International. And WAI has commissioned a study to find out where the gaps in employment are for women in aviation. The idea is that aviation organizations can use the data to guide recruitment and retention strategies for women in their workforce. Currently, women make up less than 5% of maintenance technicians and airline executives, and they are only 5% of airline pilots. But on the positive side, the percentage of women with a pilot certificate has increased to over 7% in the past few years. A survey shows that what draws women to aviation jobs are a passion for aviation, a perception that aviation is adventurous, fun, and challenging. Bingo! But there's also a perception that aviation is still run by a good old boys network, that education and training are expensive, and that aviation is not always compatible with family life.
Well, last week we told you about the Go Fly competition for a personal flying machine. This week, we'll take a look at the technology which could make a motorcycle-like vertical takeoff machine possible. And believe it or not, that technology begins right here in your smartphone.
The technology that tells your smartphone which way is north, how to center the bubble, or for that matter, counts your steps, will also be the key to making some of these contraptions actually fly under control.
People have been dreaming about this forever, but all the technology is finally up to par.
Now, the Dragon Air hoverboard has actually flown, and if you think it looks a lot like a big drone, well, it does, in part because the technology that keeps it upright is essentially the same as that in a little drone.
This particular control system is pretty common for multi-rotors and quadcopters.
And all of those little micro-electromechanical gyros and accelerometers in those control systems are plentiful and cheap because of smartphones.
Without the smartphone industry, it would have been harder for us to use these components. The components would be much larger, much heavier, but since everyone wants the smallest phone, thinner, flatter, it's kind of an offshoot which helped this project, this industry.
So how do all of these little gizmos keep the shiny side up?
We've taken this cascaded PID loop structure, which is very powerful given there are only a few parameters you actually have to tweak. And I've implemented it on our flight controller here, and like I said, it works pretty well.
Okay, now dumb it down for the rest of us.
Our aircraft is measuring or determining the attitude of the vehicle, and when the vehicle's kind of perturbed a little bit one way or the other, the system measures that error, and then it takes that error and it tries to determine what amount of control input will bring it back to level. So it's really just error correction. So this PID loop structure is just saying, what is my error? Where do I want to be? How do I get back there?
Now, there is other technology that may make it into the real world from the Go Fly competition. The Aria uses coaxial rotors, each blade controlled by the sensors out of the smartphone world.
This is actually an electronically decoupled coaxial system, so we've got the same system on the top and the bottom, and they're not mechanically linked. And so what that allows us to do is simplify the design, so we have a lot of redundant parts, and it really brings down the high maintenance costs typically associated with helicopters.
And much quieter than a helicopter or a quadcopter.
The difference between, say, a bee and a bird.
The Texas A&M team thinks moving the rotors overhead could lead to small machines that could transport first responders into tight areas.
Generate more resources and use GoFly as a springboard to develop further prototypes and eventually get this to market.
Warren Morningstar, AOPA Live.
So it's pretty amazing, the technology that's going into these devices and the foundation that's being built. I remember writing a piece a few years ago about how these G-meter, G-sensors and that sort of thing were becoming prominent in cars and anti-skid systems and that sort of thing, and how those were being taken and used in large drones for flight control systems in some of the large military drones, and now we're seeing it shrunk way down, of course, into little TD devices that we carry around in our pockets. So,
yeah. So cool. Much we can do on a smartphone now control a flying motorcycle.
That's right. Well, coming up, flying a bristling Beechcraft.
And getting Mexico to allow the most common form of ADS-B. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Safety is a key in aviation, and in New England, hundreds of pilots have it fresh on their minds. More than 300 pilots showed up Wednesday evening for the Aero Club of New England's 30th annual crash course. The Aero Club says this event is the largest single evening safety course in the country. AOPA regularly participates in the course, and this year the featured speaker was our own Richard McSpadden from the Air Safety Institute. And the Aero Club of New England had a surprise for Richard, their presidential award for significant contributions to the advancement of aviation.
This is an award for Richard McSpadden, but it's as much award for the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association as well. They have been our partners in Crash Course for over 20 years, and they materially have made the quality of this course what it is today.
Richard presented ASI's latest accident case study, Just a Short Flight. That video has been viewed more than 300,000 times in just the past 2 weeks. It's pretty amazing. You should check it out. Find it on ASI's YouTube channel.
Well, good news if you're looking for an alternative to leaded avgas. Swift Fuels is cutting the cost for its unleaded avgas STC. The cost is down more than 75% to just $100 for each piston airplane. Now, that's not too bad. Swift Fuels has been selling unleaded avgas in the U.S. since 2015. Its 94-octane UL94 is FAA approved for over 2/3 of the U.S. piston fleet. You can find the map for where to find the fuel at the Swift Fuel website. Meanwhile, the company continues to develop its 100-octane unleaded fuel as well.
AOPA is asking our neighbor to the south to adopt ADS-B technology that would make U.S.-Mexico border crossings more accessible for GA pilots. AOPA is hoping Mexico will accept 978 megahertz ADS-B data, which is broadcast by Universal Access Transceivers, or UATs. Many U.S. aircraft are equipped with UATs because the devices are affordable and simple to install. Mexico originally announced it would require the less common and more expensive 1090ES ADS-B out. The ADS-B mandate in Mexico goes into effect January 2022.
The same company that brings you the Cessna 172, Textron, is also helping to sell more military aircraft. The company designed a new light attack airplane based on the T-6 Texan trainer. AOPA pilot editor-at-large Tom Horn took one for a spin.
You have an inner attack pilot just waiting to get out? Ever feel the need to fly around, look at things, and occasionally blow them up? I thought so. Then this is the airplane for you. It's Beechcraft's AT6 Wolverine, powered by a 1600 shaft horsepower Pratt & Whitney PT6, and designed for military armed overwatch missions, such as the kind used in special ops. The Wolverine is a design derived from Beech's T6 Texan trainer. But this is a combat airplane. I paid a visit to Textron to get an up-close look at this beast and strap it on.
In the Air Force, after you fly for a while and you hop into a fighter-type aircraft, the actual flying of the aircraft in some ways is considered secondary. They assume you know how to do that. The important part is employing it as a weapons system and being able to do that in combat. We can carry a variety of laser-guided weapons, GPS-guided weapons. We also fire guided and unguided rockets. We have an HMP 400 gun pod, holds 400 rounds of 50 caliber, and we can put one on each wing. I really enjoy its night vision goggle capability. So not only can you see better clarity just visually, when you have a targeting pod that has an illuminator, you can light certain things up on the ground. What you can do in the AT6 is it has what's called a no-drop scoring system. So you could simulate the release of a weapon based on where you put the pipper in the HUD on that electronic target that you see in the HUD. You match those two things up and you hit the pickle button and the release of the weapon will come off. The aircraft will record that data. It'll record what your dive angle was, what your airspeed was, what your G loading was. And when you get back to a debrief, you can then sit down and review those tapes.
15%. Now get a load of this cockpit. 3 screens, a HUD, weapons controls on the stick and thrust lever, and of course the ejection seat lanyard down by your crotch. Taxiing is easy, and the nose wheel can make some very tight turns. Set rudder trim and flaps for takeoff, line up, bring up the power, and wait for 90 knots to lift off. Then gear up, flaps up, and climb out at 160 knots. I got a little IMC time climbing through a layer, then sampled the controls. For a 10,000-pound airplane, it's quite responsive. It's fully aerobatic, too, so loops, rolls, and spins are allowed, of course. And the ailerons are effective right up to the stall brake. Paul coached me through a rocket attack on a virtual target. Believe me, his targeting expertise is better than mine. I think I shot my flight path marker. After more maneuvering, it was time to join up with our photo ship. It was a tight formation with plenty of aggressive breakaways. And a great way to end a great introduction to one of America's latest light attack and reconnaissance airplanes. Tom Horn, AOPA Live.
You can read more about the Wolverine in the April Turbine edition of AOPA Pilot Magazine. Wow, that looks like a lot of fun. And thankfully for us, Tom wasn't using real weapons.
Yeah, really. I've been encouraging Textron for years to make a civilian or an every person's version of the T6. I think there's enough people out there with enough money who would buy them, or you could form clubs around them, and
there you go.
And it would just be a hoot to have something like that at your disposal.
Yeah, that would be one fun flying club.
That's our show for this week. Be sure to check out our website for any further developments to the coronavirus response within general aviation.
And like, comment, and subscribe, or send us your thoughts. We'll see you next week.
Purchasing your own aircraft is an exciting experience. AOPA Finance simplifies the process, saving you money with lower interest rates and hassle-free loans, so you get into your new aircraft sooner. AOPA Finance, the right approach to buying an aircraft.